So, like, I didn't really listen to the introduction, but my name's Justin Mendez. I work here in Berkeley. I manage a vegan cinnamon roll shop. It's called Cinnaholic. It's on Oxford. I know. I seen you. I remember. The first thing I actually wanted to talk about is, I don't know if you guys are all familiar with Animal Place and what's going on right now, but they just did the second largest rescue in the country's history of animals, and it's the first largest in the history of the state of California. It's 4,500 birds. Yeah, so about 4,500 birds, and that is really, really expensive, and they have a lot of work to be done. So if anyone can donate either time or money or whatever, I think they would really appreciate that. And David and Margie from Animal Place are going to be speaking today in room 170 at 3:05, I believe. So you guys should all check that out. And any information can be found at animalplace.org. Is that good? Awesome. All right. So, yeah, this is going to be kind of short because of the time and everything, but I'm going to try, if this will open, to at least do like a brief kind of thing. So it's just... You guys ever notice how computers work until you need them? Okay, sorry. Bear with me here. Jeez Louise. Sorry. Let's talk about other stuff. I have no idea. I have no clue. Totally. Oh yeah, I was going to say, if anyone has any questions, just raise your hand and interrupt me, because if you're just sitting there waiting till the end, you might forget, or you might just, you know, whatever. So yeah, totally. I'll go over that, but I'll answer it right now since we're waiting anyway. Pretty much anywhere. Once I started looking for pallets, they're literally like everywhere you look. And the best place that I found, there's actually a furniture store that I go to, because they're always getting in fresh shipments, so their pallets are always super, super new, and the wood is always really nice. And the one that I go to literally has a pile, like, stacked this high constantly by the trash. And you can just go, and I take them like 3 or 4 at a time, and no one ever seems to notice or care. So that's where I get them, but behind grocery stores, any place like REI, for example, that's going to be getting shipments of you know, expensive products and in big quantities is going to have pallets. Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to chime in, but my boyfriend works with FedEx, and he brings home pallets all the time for our garden.
Awesome.
You can actually go to like UPS or FedEx and just say, hey, I will recycle your old pallets, and they'll give them to you.
That is awesome.
So, and they're new. So.
Right on. And if they're not nice, just wait till they close. Sure. Yeah, even Craigslist. Like, if you really can't find a pallet anywhere, which you can, but if you can't, go on Craigslist and there'll be somebody giving them away. Any other questions before we get started? Is everyone pretty awake already? Because I was thinking we could all just start yelling a bunch of stuff and that would wake us all up. I'm being serious. So, oh man, I don't know what is going on with this, but it is not opening. Okay, cool. All right, so I'm going to go through some of this that we already went through. I don't have any handouts to give to anyone. That's kind of, I did that because, I mean, for obvious reasons, the spirit of this whole thing. So if you come to me, I can give you my email address, and then I can email you all my notes for this, and I'm going to go through a little slideshow, kind of like a step-by-step thing, and I'd be more than happy to email that to you. There's also a couple websites that I'm going to reference in here, and I'd be more than happy to email those to you guys if you just take my email address and hit me up later. Yeah, like I said before, this is going to be pretty basic because of the short amount of time. Yeah?
I noticed you have a monitor. Is that supposed to be hooked up?
Not yet, but thank you. Yeah, in a little bit I'll have everybody like move in so we can all see this. Somehow, no one told me there was going to be a projector. I just thought there would be one, but there isn't. So we got this instead. It'll be good. So why I use pallet furniture, we kind of went over this a little bit already because they're everywhere and they're just left to rot and it's just ridiculous. I found one website called ecotextiles.wordpress.com, and that was a source that I found that had a little bit of insight into how much new material goes into, in this case, a 6-foot sofa. And according to their website, the 6-foot sofa uses about 32 feet of lumber, 12 cubic feet of foam, and about 70 yards of fabric. So that alone is a lot of stuff, and that's not taking into consideration the energy that's used to make this product or the fuel that's used to transport this product. And then my favorite thing is it doesn't take into consideration the energy and the fuel that was used to make the pallets that piece of furniture was put on when they shipped it to IKEA or wherever you're buying your couch from. Another more selfish aspect is the consideration of how much this stuff costs. So I pretty much had all these tools anyway, but they're not that expensive. I generally make my chairs and sofas or whatever for under $10, and that's buying screws generally. Is like the only new thing that I really buy is screws. Yeah. Also what I was going to say is if you email me, I can send you pictures of other pieces that I've made and pictures of other pieces that other people have made that have caught my eye that I think are worth sharing for sure, because there's a lot of really cool stuff out there. This kind of goes without saying, but I take absolutely no responsibility for any of you going out there and cutting your fingers off or whatever, so use a mask, use safety goggles, keep your thumbs and fingers in, and use common sense. Yeah. Again, pallets are everywhere. Sorry, I'm just going through my notes now, and yeah. I want to stress again, like, furniture stores are amazing for pallets. Go there. Yeah. Pallets are made, like I said before, to transport heavy, expensive equipment. So they're made to stay together, not to come apart, which means a lot of times they're going to be really, really, really difficult to take apart. And I've been realizing that now that they're really built to stay together. The nails that they use they're like normal nails, but then they have little pieces of wire sticking out of them. So when they hammer them in, it's kind of like a barbed fish hook. It's meant to go in and not meant to come out. So a pry bar is really good, but I'll get to that in a little bit. Old weathered wood is obviously going to crack. You know, it looks a lot cooler to work with, but you know, you might just end up splitting a bunch of wood and then not having anything to work with. Yeah, usually I like to completely take apart a pallet and then completely put it back together. Another important consideration is what the wood that you're working with is treated with, because a lot of pallets are treated with weird stuff, or they're used to transport chemicals that you might not want in your house, around your family, or, you know, just something to take into consideration when you're sawing and you're inhaling that sawdust, or if you're sanding your finished piece and all that dust is going up into your lungs. So there's a website, and it's really long, but again, take my email address, I'll send it to you. But there's a guy, and he works for a company that builds pallets, and he has a lot of insight into what you can look for as far as like what they're stamped with to find out everything from like a manufacturer's code, you know, to that specific manufacturer, and whether it's heat treated or treated with chemicals. Yeah?
So the stamp thing, it's pretty easy to remember. It's just 4 letters. It's HTDB. And if it says HTDB, that stands for heat treated and debarked. And that means that it hasn't been treated with other chemicals. The stamping codes have to say something other than HTDB in addition if it's been treated with, like, what's the chemical they come to use? Anne doesn't remember, but I don't either. Maybe you do.
I don't. It's something with a B.
That's the one that you know is free and clear, and then the other ones may or may not be okay, but that's like the one with the least amount of chemicals.
Cool. Yeah, that's another good thing because I generally have leftover parts, and for me, maybe this is weird, I don't know, but I like to just burn the wood because it's like leftover little scraps, and I like to have a little fire, and if I'm going to throw it in the trash anyway because I have no use for it, you know, it's like little scraps or whatever, I'll just burn it, and you kind of want to know if you should be burning that or not. Yeah, so aside from pallets, you're going to need tools. I have all the tools that I use laid out here, which, yep.
Sorry, I don't mean to
Okay.
disrespect your idea because I love like campfires.
Mm-hmm.
But someone told me that campfires actually have like a negative effect on the ozone layer. Is it true or is it a rumor? Or
I have no idea.
that is actually
I have no clue. That's a really good question.
Technically it does, but we have two things going on. There's usually, there's almost always going to be a fire, burning around the world. The fires are a part of the natural cleansing cycle of the planet, right? Unfortunately, because we're so afraid of fires and so afraid of things, we actually don't allow natural wildfires and things like that to occur. So actually, the things that would the gas and stuff that would be created in a fire are being released, and so a certain kind of cleansing process is not happening. So if you're using untreated wood to burn, it's actually not necessarily a bad thing. I would just say do it in moderation.
You have to look for the no burn signal, so you just go on your city's website and then no burn.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't have like that. And don't do it near any dry brush.
Awesome.
Yeah, unless you're going to make controlled burn or something, that's fine.
Much more responsible than the way I do it. Very good. No, I appreciate it. Right, so normal tools, drill, obviously, saw, measuring tape. I don't have a Sharpie here, but you all know what a Sharpie looks like. The two most important tools that I use are drill bits for drilling pilot holes, because again, if the whole purpose of this is to reuse wood, you don't want to split it every time you're drilling into it. And then a pry bar. For a while, I was just using the back of a hammer, and I was getting really frustrated because I was breaking wood all the time, and I was just like, I have to figure something else out. So I went to Ace, and I bought this, and it was like $7 or, actually no, it might have been like $15. But it's so insanely worth it. Like, it saves so much time, so much frustration. Do you have one of these? You know what I'm talking about?
Cool.
Man, it is amazing. If I had to give up any of these, I would keep this. But yeah, it's totally worth it, and it'll just save you so much time and make your life so much easier. So, yeah, another thing about the power drill and the bits and everything, I try to reuse everything I can, so I generally try to be pretty careful when I'm pulling nails out, and I'll even like hammer them out and straighten them and reuse them, but I don't use them for things that are gonna affect the structural integrity of whatever it is that I'm making. So, like this chair, all the nails in there are reused, except I do screws going around the little frame here. That's it, yeah. And everything else is nails, and it seems pretty fine to me. I don't jump around on it, but it's a chair. Yeah. Again, all this stuff is pretty inexpensive, and the best part about living in Berkeley is that there's actually a tool lending library. I've never personally been to it because I had most of this already, but you can go to the Berkeley, it's just berkeleypubliclibrary.org, and they'll have all the information for the tool lending library, and you can go in and rent tools. You don't have to buy any of them. Yeah, so once you have all your tools and your wood, the next step is coming up with a plan. What? Oh, okay, I want to know. So yeah, I like DIY furniture so much because I have very little patience, and I just take everything apart and start building something without a plan most of the time, and I just see how it comes out. And that's, you know, a big part of what I love about it. But it is good to have general dimensions in mind. Like, when I was making this, I sat down and I was like, okay, I want it to be about this wide, and, you know, do you want the backrest to be angled? There's just little things that you can take into consideration before you start drilling things in and putting pilot holes in your wood and doing all that stuff. So yeah, not super important to have like a set plan, but maybe just an idea of what you're going to go for. And a lot of times I'll just sit there and like stare at the palette and kind of decide what I'm going to do. So if everyone over there and on the sides wants to move over here, the screen's not that big, but I'm going to kind of go through and do like a little step-by-step on how I made the, I guess, one of my favorite chairs. Oh, that finally opened.
I like your background.
Thanks. Thought you would. Okay. Can everybody see? Let's get cozy. Come on. I spent way too much time figuring this out. Let's all... Are we all still awake? At least she's honest. Wow. Things to work on. Okay, cool. So, this is a pallet that I got from behind a furniture store. It's a little bit bigger than a normal pallet, but this is going to apply, you know, like the steps I took and everything that I went through to do this is the same whether you're using a slightly larger one or a slightly smaller one. So the first step that I wanted to do is, you can see, everyone can see this middle board here. Is this showing up?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm cutting that down and kind of getting the base part that I'm going to sit on. And then what I'm going to do is I want to keep this structure essentially the same, but I want this area, which is where I'm going to be sitting, to be smaller. So I'm going to pry all this off and just kind of scoot it over and reattach it. So I'm measuring the area that I want to be able to sit on and then cutting all this off and prying these off, trying to be careful. You can see I was like splitting this wood like crazy. And part of it actually was because my original plan was to build a chair here and try to do it in half an hour, but I just couldn't do it fast enough. Bless you. So yeah, I always try to save as much wood as I can. So yeah, you can see what I did. I just, like I said, cut it and move that sort of like those base pieces over, and I pried off some boards here to reuse for other things. And the reason I left this here is because you'll see later this area right here is where the backrest is going to kind of slide in to the rest of the chair. So this is the part that I cut off in the first place, and this is what we're going to use for the backrest. So prying all of this off, leaving this board, and then I'm going to take this one and do a similar thing like I did to the other part, where I'm moving this over and kind of measuring it out and getting the right distance that I want for my backrest, the right width, rather, sorry. And then I'm going to cut off all the excess, which is what I did here. So I laid these across to make sure that it was going to be able to slide into that first part, into right here. So pulled this off and laid it all on top of the first part that I made. And I already cut these, and then I left one board longer so that when I slide it in, it doesn't all slide through. It adds a little bit of support for when you're doing the rest of what you're doing. So cutting wood, invisible. So yeah, you can see here, sliding the backing in, and it's starting to actually look like a chair. The next part I did was the legs, and for this I used screws. So these pieces, I don't remember exactly if they were these or if it was part of what I pulled from these gaps. But either way, I cut it's all from the same pallet, and I just cut them the length that I wanted and then put some screws in there. And I have this board laying here. I'm getting ready to attach it to add a little bit more stability. So there you can see, and that's pretty solid, I think, at least good enough for me. And then what I'm measuring right here, this picture's kind of hard to tell, but I'm measuring this distance because you can see when I have the backing in here, this is way too long. I just want to trim that so that it's easier to work with. So I'm measuring the distance from here to the ground and then measuring it out on the legs of the backrest and trimming that down so I can slide it in. And then you can see here I'm sitting in the chair and I'm just, that's a joke, feel free to laugh. I'm just getting an idea of the angle of the backrest and making sure that I like the angle. Which I like my chairs to be pretty angled. I like the part that I'm sitting on to be angled, and I like the backrest to be angled because it's very relaxing for me. The next step is going to be putting on the back legs, which are going to go right here. And then just like on the front, how we have one on each side, or I'm sorry, two on each side, I'm going to do the same thing on the back. So there's going to be one right here and then one on the other side. And they're going to go straight through this board, which I put here to add a little bit more, I guess you could say, structural integrity to the backrest. So there we go. There's a little back leg. And again, as you can see, this has got a pretty nice angle to it. And then, whoops, there we go. The next step is just trimming off all this extra nonsense. So I'm going to cut all this and cut off all this wacky stuff in the back. And then I'm going to, just like I did on the front here with this plank going across, adding a little more stability, I'm doing the same thing on the back. And then we have our finished chair. And that's it. And that one took about 2 hours. And it's actually the chair that I'm sitting in now. So what I did for the rest of it was I had this old thing, and I know this doesn't look awesome, but it's pretty comfy, and the cats really like it. And it was just this old thing that I had sitting around. Yeah, it's ridiculous. Like, I literally get up to get a cup of water, and the cat is on the chair. I just opened up an old body pillow and used the stuffing, and then just covered it and used the staple gun really quick. And I didn't really put a ton of time into detail or whatever, but I just wanted something that wasn't going to give me splinters, and I didn't really want to take the time to sand it, so that's it. Yeah. Other finishing touches that I like to do, so this was supposed to say positive mental attitude, but my propane tank ran out. So that's that. It was on my list of things to finish before this happened. Oh, I'm actually missing a board here. Anyway, I took my torch and I kind of burned the wood a little bit just to give it nice color, like just kind of a little final touch, and then that's really it. Sure. I would probably finish this, unless your name starts with ATT, and then I could just...
Do you have a blog that people can follow you, and, like, where you document your creations? I know it's hard to, explain exactly what you do, but if you take pictures, it might be helpful for people to, follow.
Yeah, totally. I don't. It's kind of one of those things that I've planned on doing and never really do. And I actually tried doing a video of me doing this step-by-step for this, but it just was terrible. Any questions? Yes? This is the only chair that I've ever covered, so it hasn't really been a huge issue. But I just had this. Literally, like 8 years ago, I helped my friend clean her garage, and she was like, you can have anything you want. And I was like, cool, I'll take this wacky fabric thing. So, and then I was living in Long Beach several years ago, and my friend was like, I bought this body pillow, and it just isn't working for me. So I took it, and it's been a cat bed until now. And now it's a cat bed shaped like a chair. Yeah, you guys are all welcome to sit on it before you leave. Yeah, you have to come up here. Yep.
Notice the ends of the pallets tend to have a lot of sharp, and it seems pretty easy to get splinters and stuff. Do you sand it down afterwards? Or
Yeah, it depends on what I'm going to be using it for. I have a table that I made, and I went crazy just sanding it down because the wood was like insane. Like you couldn't run your hand across it without getting a million splinters. So I sanded that down really, really well. But it more or less just depends on what I'm going to be using it for. Yeah, it actually, I was really surprised with how nice that table looked because it was a pallet that I found in an alley. It was before I realized that pallets would be treated with anything, so I just was grabbing whatever I could find. And it was just like really terrible wood, and that's kind of why I like it because the top of the table is still really messed up and gnarly looking. But once you sand it down, it's super, super smooth and really nice. So yeah, I'm actually really surprised with how nice you can get the wood to look. Mm-hmm. It's on that website, but I don't remember off the top of my head. I want to say there's 2 main woods, but I don't know. Yeah. Oh, okay.
And quite a few are hard ones, which is a good thing, and that's why they put together so well. But there are some that are just soft pine. If you want to look at a hardwood one.
Yep. Anything else?
I'm totally going to make a chair now.
Awesome. All right.
I see you use a handsaw. Wouldn't it be a lot easier to use power tools, so you just don't want to?
It would totally be easier to use power tools if I could afford one. Or if I wasn't too lazy to go to the... Actually, technically, I don't live in Berkeley, so I can't rent from the Berkeley Tool Library. So I should have said that's why I bought all this and didn't rent it. But, yeah. And honestly, this one goes pretty quick. Here, check this out. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah, no, it goes pretty quick, and a lot of times the wood from pallets I find to just goes through it really fast, you know what I mean? And also what I like to do, like in that picture, is I'll leave them pretty much together so that they're all staying in place and just saw it like that instead of, you know, taking it apart and sawing each individual one, and it goes pretty quick, yeah.
So was woodworking your first like creative outlet, or were you doing other, you know, construction or art pieces before getting into pallets and people's gardens?
I think this is it. Yeah, I don't really consider myself a very artistic person, so for me, this is like it. You know what I mean? I've really like, yeah, totally. It's not getting any better than this. Maybe I'll paint it. We'll see. Yeah. Yep.
What are some furniture pieces that you've had difficulty creating or building?
I don't know. You know, probably I've like looked at a picture and I've been like, that looks hard, so I didn't even try it. But the piece that I'm working on right now is going to be like a little kind of square chest thing that, oh, cover your ears. Whoops. That opens and closes. It was supposed to be a surprise for Tashina. Oh well. Surprise! Happy Earth Day! So that would probably be the most like advanced piece that I've worked on because it has like, it'll have hinges, you know what I mean? But and I've like actually measured things, you know, like I really measured a lot of stuff. But there's nothing really that seems that difficult, which is part of what appeals to me so much about it, is like once you start doing it, it's all so basic. It's just really easy to do, and once you have like a basic idea of what you're gonna do, it goes by pretty quick, you know?
I was just wondering, could one paint this? Does it take the paint well? I can just imagine it being painted like with some really funky...
I haven't tried painting it. I've stained some pieces, but I'm sure it would be fine. I mean, I don't know. It's wood. I don't know. I'm sorry. I think so. Anybody want to take that one? Oh, actually, Alex had a really good idea, and I didn't want to forget this, but I don't know if you guys know Alex Eves. He reuses a bunch of stuff. And he told me one day that you could take old T-shirts, like, let's say, I don't know, wherever, if you can find somewhere where they shred T-shirts and leave them, or if you just go to, like, Goodwill or whatever and buy a bunch of used shirts and shred them, and then just tie them around every plank, you know, like, imagine these are spread further out, or it's like this, and just tie them around, and then the whole thing is padded and, you know, it might be easier than sanding it or painting it, or, you know, I don't know. This is actually something that I was forgetting. For this, I took, and at the time I didn't really think about that these were coated with anything. I was like really excited to do this, and I was like, cool, yeah, I have these coat hangers. And I got actually kind of sick because I was burning all the stuff off of these, and that was probably a really bad and irresponsible thing to do, but regardless, you can just get wire and then bend them, and this is the whole alphabet. So that was fun, and then you just get a torch and heat them up and just brand your wood with them, and it's a lot of fun for personalizing stuff, so that was something that I wanted to address. But probably get maybe metal that's not coated with something.
Yeah, other things that are not galvanized or anything like that.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, or don't do it in your kitchen.
So, if we can take like one more question, but then we got to move on to our next thing, which is a cooking demo. I know this is really amazing. But Justin, you're going to be walking around, right? The chair's going to be over here, and you guys can try it out and see how it feels and ask them all the questions you want. So we have any last questions? Yes? No? All right. So
I really appreciate all of you coming to this.
That was really cool.
It means a lot to me.
We're going to be setting up here for a cooking demo with Karine Brighten.